Boy, that King James Version translation. So if we can filter out the patriarchy, the exclusive tone, and focus on some of these key themes. This is someone who is facing imminent death. Loving like a parent, saying farewell to beloved children, trying to pass on everything they will need. It can bring to mind our own parents. Think of that kind of love, or as parents, what we want to pass on to our own children. And those who are not parents, those we want to pass on to those we love, whose lives will extend beyond ours. So hear it from that context. It's prayer that you only pray when you're about to leave. Not the prayer that you say at the beginning of things, when everything's new and fresh, full of possibility. Not the prayer in the middle that tends to be all about negotiations, trying to make it work together. Prayer's on the threshold. When you've done everything you can do, and the only thing left to do is to entrust those you love more than yourself. Every one of us knows this prayer, has received this gift. And someday we will be the ones who are saying farewell. As I understand it, John 17 is that kind of prayer. It takes us back to the Last Supper, the Passover, just before the Garden of Gethsemane. The supper is finished. The long, intimate conversation is over. In a matter of hours, the soldiers will come. Judas will kiss Jesus. They'll arrest him. They'll come with lanterns and weapons, and everything else will change. Jesus stands at the threshold and he prays. But he doesn't pray for himself exactly. He does say, please take this away from me. I don't want this. He prays for his loved ones. He prays for them. The ones who will remain when he can't. And he says, Abba, Daddy, could be Mommy. The one who loves you, protect them in your name, so that they may be one as we are one. It's profoundly intimate. Home again. Hold them in your home. Don't let them come apart, because the world can make us come apart, can't it? I want to hold on to another phrase that John lifts up. In verse 6, Jesus says to God, they were yours, and you gave them to me. Jesus, in John's gospel, I don't think he's talking about acquisition. I think he's describing recognition. These people are already home, already held, already part of God, if they can just have the consciousness to see it, already held, already known, already home before they ever found their way to Jesus. So the choosing, the following, the disciples leaving their nets, all of that was real. But underneath it, something prior, something that preceded all of that. I believe there is that of God in every person. Every person. Not as a sentiment, but as a description of reality. It's in you too. And it was from the beginning. Before you had language to even describe what that longing was for, pre-verbal. A longing for that kind of intimacy, love, being held. And certainly before you ever walked into this door or any sanctuary, it's much bigger than that. And it's much deeper inside of you, the moments we were meditating, those places of peace within you. You are already known. And so then what's the role of a faith community? If you're already known, you already belong. I don't think the community's job is to grant that belonging, like we're having new members join today, because they already belong. Our job is to recognize what's already true and to say it out loud and to keep on saying it until we all believe it. Okay, so this week in Bible study, Rod was part of the group, and he told me a story that's been with me all week. So years ago, many years ago, he and his late wife, Carol, had taken in 3 rescued kittens. They kept 2 of them, and they gave the 3rd to a couple who said they wanted a cat. And it didn't work out. The cat got hair on the furniture, scratched the wrong things, and was returned along with its food unceremoniously. By that point, that cat who had been so loved and so held and so at home with Rod and Carol became mean. Genuinely mean. As Rod told us, you'd pick it up and the cat would go right for your face with its claws. Not a sympathetic creature. Not one that invited love. Rod started working with that cat anyway. He didn't have a particular plan. He just kept showing up, kept handling it, kept being present to this animal that had been wanted and then discarded, confused, abandoned, and decided reasonably enough that this world is not safe. As Rod shared with us, the cat slowly came out of it. Slowly and then completely. Became, as Rod said, the best cat he ever had. He used to dance with the cat. The cat, I understand, was on the card table, and Rod was dancing with the cat. Not that Rod was on the table. And Rod would snap his fingers, and the cat would jump in his lap. He'd call it down from the top of a stepladder, and down it would come, purring. What changed in that cat was not a technique, It was patient, unconditional, unearned love. The kind that shows up to dance with a traumatized cat on a card table for no reason except that the cat could dance on the card table. And what I didn't tell you, that same conversation Rod was sharing with us, he describes himself as someone who has never had many friends. I don't perceive him like that. This is Rod's sharing. And I have his permission to share this. And that the people he loved kept dying or drifting away. Again, that sense of the abandoned cat. Where are you? That he isn't sure if he's honest that he's ever been on the receiving end of what he gave that cat. Don't you want to love him? I do. He told me this without self-pity, the way you'd state a fact about the weather. And I keep thinking, here's a man who knows exactly how to extend a welcome he wasn't certain he'd ever been given. Which means that that capacity for love doesn't wait until you've received it. It's already there. It's in all of us. If we open ourselves to it, it's already in you. It's already in each one of us. I believe this is what Jesus is praying for all of us to be held in that kind of love that was there before we existed in this form. That's what he's asking God for us to be, for this beloved, improbable crew he's about to leave behind. He's sharing that with his motley crew of questionable disciples. I mean, who would pick the people he picked? Think of it. Impulsive, competitive, fishermen, fishing for people. I'll never deny you until I do. I mean, human, like us. Really human. And Jesus knew something about what it's like to love that way, to pour yourself into an imperfect, sometimes infuriating crew, motley crew, and then to have to release them into the world that would not be careful with them, that would not be safe with them, like the experience of Rod's cat. Jesus prays, I am not in the world, but they are in the world. There is real grief in that line. Not metaphorical grief. The grief of someone who loves these specific people by name, who knows them, who sees them with a specific love that cannot stay. A hand held longer than necessary, wanting to hold on. Hold on with that particular silence that transcends any words. Because words would only diminish what's true. And so Jesus prays anyway. I believe that's what love does when it is letting go. It prays. It asks someone trustworthy to hold what it can't. And the prayer is not that the disciples be removed from this world, only that they be kept while they remain in it. And kept, as we all know, doesn't mean protected from difficulty. It means held by a love that's strong enough so that difficulty does not have the final word. Does not have the final word about who you are. So John's gospel, the fourth gospel, the last one written, many decades after Jesus had died, was written by and for a community that had already lost their home. They were expelled from the synagogue. Their belonging was revoked. And they were caught between a religious establishment that rejected them and an empire that demanded their worship. They were Rod's returned cat. And into that specific, embodied homesickness, the gospel places Jesus praying. Hold them, make them one. One because they're held by that same love, stubborn, patient, already decided. The same love that Rod extended to that cat, even when that cat went for his face. The medieval mystic Julian of Norwich had a word for it. I love this word, wanting. The love of God creates in us such a wanting, she said, that when it is truly seen, no person can separate themselves from another. So look at us here. We're not so far from John's community, are we? We too are a small, misunderstood congregation trying to follow a rabbi whose vision keeps being mistaken for something much more exclusionary, much smaller and meaner than it is. We too live in a time when the powerful have convinced themselves that some people belong and others don't. In fact, others don't even deserve to live. Mean, vicious. That welcome is a resource to be rationed rather than a truth to be told. We too come here needing to be reminded of something the world is working hard to make us forget. God showed up as a refugee, a poor family of questionable belonging, questionable standing, and yes, a man executed by the state, brutally, by the empire, as a warning. Not despite these things, but precisely because. Which means good news for us, good news for the person you're standing next to. God is in that person. God is in you. Not because you've earned it, just because you are. You're not a guest here. You're not being evaluated. You belong to something that claimed you before you claimed it. That, I believe, is the promise. The practice is what we do with our bodies. And it costs more than the promise does. And so today, we received 2 new members, Sue and Tyler. People who have found their way here. First time was Easter sunrise, maybe 20 years ago. 19, long time ago. Sound healing and worship. And they have decided to call this place home. You were God's before you found us. We're just a community that gets to say that out loud. What you bring, your questions, your doubts, your particular history of being hurt by institutions or saved by them, your way of seeing that we have not learned about yet. We need that. Not as a contribution to a roster, as a correction. New people are always how communities discover who they are becoming, whether the welcome is real or just decorative. We need you to find out. And to the rest of them, to the rest of us here, receive them. Knowing we won't do this perfectly. At some point, we'll disappoint these new friends. And vice versa. There are times where we'll be distracted or awkward or just not paying attention. And guess what? We do that because we're human. And so let's keep the door open. And the people holding it open, remembering that we're all human. And put our intention on that love. Keep them, hold them, make them one. Not one in uniformity. We don't want that. One in love. Not because we've earned it, but because that's what love does. Imperfect, honest, here. Welcome home. God, help us to mean it. Amen. And we'll now hear the hymn of response.